Um, well, hello everyone. How is everyone doing today? Are you guys excited? Hopefully you guys are all ready for the RTA tournaments. Hello. So, as you can see, we have our analysts here. With me today, I have Panshui, Once in Love, and Tiber. On my analyst desk, I will let them introduce themselves, starting with Panshui, then Once in Love, then Tiber. Take it away, Panshui.
Hello, chat. I'm Panshui, an E7 streamer. I will be your analyst for today.
Yeah, Tyler.
Don't forget to push the talk, buddy.
Well then, this is Hey guys, this is Once in Love, and I'm joining you guys here today. I'm an Epic 7 streamer that streams RTA content, and if you guys want to watch me, you can watch me at twitch.tv/once-in-love. All right, Tiber.
Hey guys, I'm Tiber Setsuna in game. Finally retired from the competitive Guild Wars scene, but as always, an honor and pleasure to be here with good friends. I'm excited to watch some great matches.
Thank you. While Once in Love, hello.
Hey.
Can you?
Yes.
Everything's lighting up, so I'm just confused. Like, even the test shows that the mic is working. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was in here for so long.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, we're just I guess we'll be taking different spots for today. So, hello, I am. Okay,
my bad,
guys. We're good.
Everything broke.
All right, so let's just have you do your introduction again, real quick.
I'm Once in Love. I'm a regular Summoners War streamer, but I do stream Epic 7 once a week at minimum. I'm here to analyze with you guys. Hopefully, this is a good tournament.
All right. So, thank you guys. Hopefully, you guys are having fun already. Hopefully, you guys like the intros. If you guys didn't already, there is a gacha happening in chat for you guys. Let me just play a card real quick for you guys. So you guys can use the card to cheer on for your favorite teams, and you'll see them in places during the tournament, and those will be for the team along with the players. So if you guys want to have some fun, you guys want to rep up your team, make sure you guys rep up your team there. All right. Aside from that, we also have our casters today. So we have Arc, Car, and Lilac. Those three will be doing the live casting during each of the matches, and then before they hand it off back to us at the analyst desk. So you guys are also going to hear from them live gameplay. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Hopefully you guys enjoy the tournament, and hopefully you guys also have fun. So while they're setting up for the whole tournament and everything there, on that note there, who do you guys, just ask the analysts here, Panshui, Once in Love, Tiber, right? Actually, let's just go down. Panshui, who do you think is going to be a dark horse in this tournament? Yeah.
Dark horse, you would say, huh? I'll probably give all of the contestants a chance. I'll probably say all of them have an equal chance of winning. I wouldn't say there would be a dark horse. I probably wouldn't. There's a couple that I don't exactly know, but I'm looking forward to actually see them play.
Okay. Pretty cool. All right, and it looks like, from what I'm seeing here, they are in the pick ban phase, so I'll hand it off to Arc. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Hey, I wonder if you guys can hear me. If you can hear me, chat, give me a big thumbs up or a Tony or whatever, whatever emote suits you the best. Today I have Lilac from Veritas, as well as Car 6, your boy. It's going to be a great day. Guys, I'm really, really excited. We're jumping right in. So sorry for all of the crazy randomness as far as like videos and everything go. I can't even, the amount of things that could go wrong, did go wrong, everything's a little bit nuts. Next time, remind me when I'm doing a 30-minute render of a video, like maybe don't put that as your timer because by the time you get to the end of it, everything's totally jacked up. So, sorry about that, dudes. We're back in it. It's going to be awesome. You guys want to give a quick rundown, Lilac as well as Car? We're kind of jumping right into it. What do you think is going to go on like in this particular matchup now that we're looking at these first two, Tatsuni and Liminal?
You want to start us off, Lilac?
Sure. So, I mean, we're seeing some units that we're really used to, unless the Sermia picks comes out. In general, for the most of today, I'm very curious because there were a couple of units that were added to the pool, right? We have ML Hayes who just came in. We got Dizzy who just got released. I'm hoping to see some of those. Do you think they'll make an appearance here?
Maybe not in this one, but I know we definitely will see Dizzy sometime throughout the tournament, which I'm very excited for.
Man, I sure hope so. Honestly, just like for all the potential like messing around with the meta that we thought we might have between Elfelt and Dizzy, it feels like Dizzy is going to be much more likely at this point between those two. Speaking of, from a high level perspective, thoughts on that character? Do you think we'll even see Elfelt today at all?
Well, so I think Elfelt has a lot of things going on. I think Elfelt has a very loaded kit in general, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if someone did pick up the Elfelt because there are so many ways you can build her. There's so many ways you can use her. She brings CC, she brings Dispel, she brings Defense Break, she brings Crit Chance buff. All of those things are really, really good. And she has a good base speed. There's a lot of ways to use her. And we already see the Dizzy come out.
There it is. Woo, that's exciting.
Wow,
right
first match. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go, baby. Oh, man. All right, so what's the bans here? Who do you ban on either which one of these sides if you were looking at it? It looks like we're going to be able to watch Liminal. Of course, by the way, for all the players out there that may or may not be watching, if you want to hide your bans, maybe wait till the last couple of seconds and then quick lock it. Just so that way we for sure can't, that nobody can cheat that way. It makes it easier.
Good point. Arcaden, I need to AFK real quick to make a call to one of our players and make sure they're here. I'll be right back, guys.
All good, man. You're good to go.
All right, so
yeah, go ahead.
I guess we're seeing his thought process a little bit, right? On one hand, he wants to get rid of the FCC because there's just so much mitigation that she provides, and on the other hand, we see him noticing the Dizzy, because Dizzy can be potentially a wild card in a lot of matchups because you don't really have that much practice against her, right? But we'll decide to go for the FCC. We'll see if that pays off.
That is a very fast Arbiter Vildred going first on that one.
That is also a very skillful Arbiter Vildred who managed to proc both basket buffs on the first turn.
Easy skill. Probably plus 30. No way he doesn't have that. All right.
Yeah, but so we're gonna get into the Dizzy turn, and she chooses not to S3 here, which is gonna be interesting.
Is that just to be able to wait out, most likely not having an Isla's and not feeling that it's possible, so just kind of waiting out the immunity on the Ruel? Is that why?
I'm trying to understand why he didn't go for the S3 because both the Spectre and the Arbiter were vulnerable to her debuffs, and we all know that Dizzy's debuffs are insane. Maybe they're, maybe he's fearing the Ruel cleanse, but I would think that one of them would stick, right? Because Ruel can only really cleanse one of them.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Because we don't see Alilius or anybody else that can actually get rid of it all. So. Does end up using the S2 here, so we may get to see it here really soon. Maybe that was what he was baiting, was that one right there.
I do think that whenever the Dizzy does, feel like she wants to start ripping all these debuffs, Liminal's damage, outgoing damage, is going to be severely hindered. So we're gonna see how he deals with that, especially now that he's already blown the Ruel S2.
Gotcha. Sorry, guys, making a couple of movements of some graphics here so that way you guys can see names a little bit better. My bad.
It's looking good.
Looking better.
Right, and the Dizzy is definitely looking at the Crow Horse, right? And she's got to feel a little bit threatened, so I'll be very surprised if she doesn't just rip the S3 here.
Okay.
And there she goes, and now your entire team's damage is cut by more than half. So how are you going to deal with this, Liminal?
Ooh, and 2 procs to S1 and or the Abyssal Crown. I
actually think that Dizzy's debuffs are so strong that if you don't really have an answer for just the sheer amount of debuff she puts out with the crown intact, it's going to be extremely difficult for for your team to do anything.
Yeah, so let this be a lesson to the next players. They need to have some Dizzy answers ready because this is looking very bad for Liminal.
Right, and there's a good chance the crowd just straight up dies here without doing anything. And you don't really feel that great about using your S3 on the crowd, but you might have to because the crowd horse is a significant amount of damage.
Just to touch on that real quick, I'm a little bit curious too. If you do have to use this on Crow, that puts you at an immediate disadvantage because now you're bringing up a Crow at full health as well, right? So you're now having to deal with a full health Crow and not getting a chance to get that S3 off again. So you're going to have to wait that out. Is that correct?
And if all you care about is using the horse, yes. But the Crow himself does bring a lot of things to the table.
Right.
His S2 does good damage for what it is, and it brings defense up. However, just what Crow has to offer, and this Crow in particular, who doesn't look like he has that much ER or not enough ER to stand up against the Dizzy, is going to have some problems. And Dizzy's S2 should be coming up really fast right here. And if that extends on the S10, if that extends on this Arbiter Villager, we're going to see a lot of difficulty for Liminal to do anything to the enemy team.
This is some big damage. Oof.
Yeah, the Ruel gone, and both of your DPS debuff. What Tatsu just needs to do right now is to withstand the Arbiter S3 when he comes back. And if he can live past that, I see very little, very little things that Liminal can do after. So here's going to be the big swing turn if he can even do anything.
Doesn't get any Alexis proc. And
we still have full DN barrier or full DN buffs and barriers, so I don't expect this to do much of anything.
Yep.
It's gonna be a challenge, this one.
Missed on Dizzy.
Oh, Dizzy don't really care about the miss too much because we know that she has an Abyssal Crown, and we also know that artifacts proc through miss. Not only that, her S3 by nature misses already, so Dizzy don't really mind the miss chance too much, especially after she's used her S2.
Yeah, good point. Well, we'll have to see if Liminal has an answer to that Dizzy this draft.
Dang, that that was interesting. Hey, couple things. Again, guys, I want to apologize. There's a couple of, because of all the videos and all the playment that's happening here, it's actually slowed down a lot of things and a lot of processes. We may or may not have to. Hey, can you go close the bathroom door? Yep, thank you. That's a really annoying light behind me. But yeah, so we are super distracted today, guys. Lots and lots going on here, and obviously a few things that need to be adjusted and moving forward. So Tatsuni takes round 1 here. What does Liminal do to sort of deal with that? Like, what is the big Dizzy counter pre-Ray? What are we looking at? I say Ray, sort of baiting you to tell me about Ray a little bit too.
I think he just bans him if he doesn't have anything ready. Otherwise, Champ Z, Lilius, there's a few options he may have ready.
Is Champ Z, if you're going a debuff comp, is Champ Z typically going to be what you're going to see for your bans most of the time?
Yeah, I think so, actually.
So if the Champ's gone, then what?
So I actually have an interesting question about Champ Z into Dizzy. Well, we're not going to be seeing the Dizzy again because he did not want to deal with that. But while we're drafting here, do you really think Champ Z is enough into Dizzy? Because the thing about Dizzy is that she doesn't really... a lot of her debuffs are not offensive by nature. So even if Champ Z manages to return some of that debuffs onto Dizzy herself, he doesn't really cleanse the rest of the team, right? So we saw in that instance where both of his DPS got severely debuffed. So Champ Z doesn't really help with that, right? So what are you going to do even if you return all of the debuffs but your team still does no damage at all? So I don't really think that Champ Z is the perfect answer. You're going to need some sort of cleanse or immunity here.
Interesting. So do we expect to see then some more bans on Lilius and characters like that actually can just full cleanse off your team? And are people now building their Lilius to sort of be in that spot because I know for a while everybody was building Lilius incredibly fast just to be able to kind of to deal with things as it came around. But now that Dizzy may be in, are we expecting them to hold on to their S3s, or are they building them slower? What about? I mean, I realize this is kind of not necessarily part of this particular game because we aren't seeing Lilius yet, and nor do we need to because there's not a lot going on there. But I would be curious. I would be curious to see how people are rebuilding now to deal with Dizzy, obviously not being in this match.
Well, there is one way to mitigate a lot of what Dizzy wants to do, right? So you start by having immunity on all of your team. So that way she can't really put debuffs on you on the first turn. And then you have now some way to put up immunity again. So now she doesn't feel super great about doing debuffs on the second turn either. However, I guess let's get into this draft because we see a Raz being hovered. And I'm actually a huge fan of Raz.
It was locked in too. So we're gonna get to see Adventurer Ross, hoping for the dual attacks, obviously with the A Ravi and the ML Charlotte. Interesting. And
we also see on the side of Liminal ML Tywin. Now that's an interesting one.
True.
And that's one I very much like, so I'm rooting for Liminal on this round.
Car's looking for a good reason to build that character.
True. Funny enough, though, Tatsuni also is known for having a very strong ML Tywin.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting. I'm excited to watch.
Well, so Car, I guess my question to you here, right? Why do you think he picked the ML Tywin? Because it doesn't look like there are too many debuffs on the side of Tatsuni, right?
Yeah, and he also, I'm not sure here. It could just be to try and slow down the soul gain. Maybe it's on counter set. There's not very much AoE either, though, right?
Well, either way, we're going to take a look at what Liminal has to show us, right? I'm very excited to see this ML Tywin put in work.
Yeah, that's huge. So we'll get a chance, hopefully this time around, to get to a game 3. If not, Liminal is up against the ropes right now, so it's Tatsuni's game to win or lose at this point. We'll see how that plays out here. No more souls. Not that that was a problem for this team. Souls are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So who do you snipe right here?
Without any information, I'm going to go ahead and guess that this ML Tywin has some sort of counter or Elbrus in play, right?
It has to be, right? Otherwise, he's not going to be doing much of anything.
Yeah, because they can just kind of ignore what he wants to do and then save him for last after the frenzy has kicked in.
So we've seen Alex's basket proc, but no greater attack, just the crit chance.
I mean, Tatsu's team is very beefy between the mitigation that, ML Charlotte provides and the defense buff, which is actually super broken because it effectively halves your incoming damage taken. And since there is no real way for Liminal to resurrect anyone, I think Tatsu just try to get rid of the Arbiter Vildred because he's already like killed him once, and after the Arbiter Vildred dies, I think we're gonna have a real damage problem yet again on Liminal's side.
Definitely, yeah.
That's a good call. So far, interesting.
And here's the thing, right? Skill Nullifier doesn't even block what Raz wants to do because Raz S2 breaks the Skill Nullifier and then the next person comes in with the damage. So that's not even going to be super effective.
That's true.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the end crit buff didn't go into play there.
Oh, I don't think it would have mattered that much. Because...
No, not on that second attack.
Yeah, I mean, he would have lasted at most 1, maybe 2 more turns. And then after the Arbiter Vildred dies, what are you really fighting with?
Good point. Quick question too, with the skill nullifier, if I'm not mistaken, when you hit somebody that has skill nullifier, because you may not do the damage with the Roz, but he still had a chance to actually put up the defense down, assuming there wasn't a like immunity up, right? So he's also still able to land that defense break, meaning still potentially more damage coming in from that second attack coming through.
Yes, sir, that is correct. Skill nullifier only blocks damage; it doesn't block any other damage effect.
Yeah, that's a big deal when you're going against somebody who's biggest big defense piece there is the skill nullifier. Kind of negates it a bit.
Definitely. Yeah, from here on out, it's looking really bad for Liminal. Like answering your earlier question, I did mention Tatsuni's known for his Tywin. Could that pick just be maybe to try and stop Tatsuni from picking it?
As in a deny pick, you say? Well, I do like the sound of that because that sounds very big brain. However, I think if you want to deny pick someone and you don't want to deal with specific lineups, it also has to fit for your team, right? Because then you're just trading one of your spots, maybe like half a character that's not really effective for what you're trying to do, for a deny pick. And we know that a lot of these players are, ranked really high and they have experience with RTA, so they are going to have like big rosters. So I don't think the deny pick, if that was the intent, proved to be too useful here. And we see Tatsu very comfortable with just straight up not touching the ML Tywin at all. He has all of his buffs. He has his skill nullifier. He's looking very handsome, but not very deadly.
Yeah, that's about it. Have we seen an Elbrus proc come out from him yet?
I don't think so.
Is there any chance at this point for Liminal to be able to turn this around? Because it feels very one-sided at the moment, just like the sheer amount of tanky bruiser that they've got going on the Tatsu side at this point. Like, I get that he's facing into some bruisers as well, but does the DN heal, is that going to be enough to be able to push this into enough frenzy state to make a difference, or are we just looking at a slow, like, chip down right now of Liminal?
I think that Frenzy can really churn a lot of outcomes, and we can never be super 100% sure. But I think that in a match of Frenzy, Apocalypse Ravi is one of those units that are really, really strong when Frenzy kicks in.
That's a very good
So
point.
if Liminal is banking on some Frenzy play, he wants to get rid of this Apocalypse Ravi real fast, and it doesn't look like he's gonna have that much in his toolkit right now to do so.
And even if he does, the Ruel can just bring it right back, right? So at this point,
Yeah,
Exactly.
there's 2 reses on the other side.
yeah, it's a pretty scary spot to be in right now with 2 resers on the other team.
It's gonna be very, very challenging, but we never know. Maybe he gets every dual attack from this on point, and maybe Tatsuni proceeds to misclick or something. We do get to see
At
his
this level of
cool
play,
animation,
I don't really
though.
expect
Yep,
that,
boys,
but
he
maybe,
does look good.
Maybe. There's some dollars on the line here for these boys, so I don't think they're. I would hope that would be a big misplay to make those mistakes here. You'd expect that not to be happening, but I agree. It's not out of the question. It's very much a possibility. So I guess we'll just have to see how that plays out. He is starting to chip down that FCC slowly but surely. She's getting there. Oh, and now she is toast. So we're down to the last 2. Is there any chance here, or are we going to be seeing a surrender pretty soon? Because it looks like there's not a lot of damage and not a lot of ability to counter what's going on the opposite side.
Frenzy stacks aren't even that high yet. I don't think there's much of a chance left for Liminal here.
Yeah.
Well, if there is a way, I don't know. So prove to me that you're the better player.
Well, you heard it here first, boys. Veritas Recruiting. All you have to do is prove yourself today. That's what I heard, right, Lilac? That's correct.
Well, Veritas is recruiting. But...
Oh, I didn't know. I actually didn't even know.
Oh, there's the Elbrus proc. It finally happened. We see it.
Wow, it's either unleveled or that was just extremely unlucky.
All right, 10 more of those, please, and then we got a game.
Holy moly.
All right, 20 more of those, please, and we got a game.
So let me ask you guys, do you think SC Roz will be seeing a lot more of him throughout this tournament? We saw Dizzy and him today, and he's looking really good.
He heard us.
Quick side conversation. No big deal. Easy side.
he just confirmed that is indeed a level 30 Elbrus. I'm very sorry that your Elbrus procced only once.
Oh,
Perfect.
no.
Thank you for the clarification.
It only procs when it's on the other team, of course.
Right.
Man. Yes, the good old left side.
This is kind
left
of
side Kurt.
Can we just talk about this for a second? Like this Tatsuni second build here. I really like it. Like I actually really love this. I don't think that I personally have the gear to make it work for my own account, but this looks so gross because you're dealing with 2 of like a big sniper in your CC. You've got a really I can go forever in a Ravi plus does damage. You've got 2 resers and you've got a character who's bulky right now in Ross who can also defense break potential and get dual attacks. I love it. I actually really like it.
Yeah, he strips as well on his S1.
Yeah. Roz is a very stacked character. Like people talk about his S2 and the defense break, but then a lot of people ignore the fact, not ignore, but forget about the fact that he cycles his defense buff really fast too.
That's a good point. Well,
and that's huge. He also gives immunity to his partner, so like he brings a lot to the table.
All right. Hello, testing. Is stream back?
Hello,
We good?
testing 1, 2, 3.
Chat, can I get some thumbs up from you guys if you guys can see us and hear us?
Can we get some Twitch primes in chat?
Oh, can we get some Twitch primes in chat? That's what I'm talking about.
Apparently you're muted, Gabe.
I'm muted?
Take the lead.
Probably not the best time for chat to troll me though, you know.
Or maybe they want to mute you. I don't know.
True. All right, can you guys actually hear me or not hear me, chat? No troll. All right, no, it seems like chat's typically trolling us because this could, yeah. All right, typical troll. Because
All right, are we good and clear to start analyzing?
yeah, we're good. All right, I'm just gonna not trust people in chat. All right, so we're good. Let's start this up again. All right. Okay, so from that match, round 1, let's have Tiber talk about the Dizzy pick and what happened with that and how that really brought round 1 to a close.
Cool. Yeah, it's super exciting to see Dizzy come into RTA. With the Guilty Gear collab coming back, she's finally been unbanned. This is pretty much her debut on the scene in these tournaments. And we're seeing how powerful she is, mages having access to probably the best competitively viable artifact pool. With Abyssal Crowns seemingly having a 100% proc rate, was a bit rough to see, I must say. But with that being said, I do think there was a fumble, a misplay, going all the way back into the draft. Dizzy being picked up by Tatsumi, and with a Caesarato counterpick to that. The downsides, as Lalik had mentioned previously, is that Caesarato is reactionary and sends the debuffs back, but only cleanses himself. The entire rest of your team is incredibly crippled. And a bunch of other dominoes fell at the same exact time. Ruel being your Soul Weaver being your supportive unit, only having a single target cleanse in both the skill 2 and the skill 3 to reset the team. By having Tatsu using ML Charlotte's skill 3, which is on an incredibly low cooldown, dealing a large portion of damage onto the Ruel, forced Liminal to use S2 on herself, meaning that there was no way to react and cleanse up another unit. And then, obviously, Spectre Tenebria was not on the immunity set, which I think if people could get away with it previously, or if you had units like DN who cycled her skill cooldown so quickly and can cleanse up the team, it might have been okay. But especially with Dizzy being into the game nowadays, immunity sets, or at least banning out the Dizzy.
Yeah, and I mean we saw that from we saw that in game 2 pretty much. He pre-banned the Dizzy because he knew that he didn't have a ready answer for that. And so moving on with that, game 2, let's have Once in Love talk about the team, how Liminal's and Tatsu's draft essentially how Tatsu's draft was a really strong draft there. Okay, so no troll again once? Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
I don't get it. Every time I start to talk again, it just mutes. So I don't know. But I'm here. Don't worry. I wanted to talk about the draft. I felt like Tatsu's draft was very, very cohesive. There were a lot of things that tied in really well together. For example, he had 3 units that gained CR if you attacked them or if you attacked something else that was threat. Both the damage dealers were focused around like, hey, if you hit my Robbie, I can counter you, and I heal back. If you hit my LQC, she gains attack bar. Right? It was the perfect team for that. And you also had the Hillig's Lance on the Ras. The thing that was the most important in the draft was actually the last pick Ross, because it gave Tatsu 2 different things that were really strong. It gave him defense buff from 2 different sources, so it was either the Alencia or the Ross, and it also gave him 2 defense breakers, both between the Alencia and the Ross. So the last pick that really tied in and sealed that team super well. The biggest issue with like drafting against that is like there was no damage to kill anything, right? The double defense buff, the defense break, those bruises are just going to hit really, really hard. And then lastly, having the touch of Rekos as well on the Ruel is just a beautiful touch to keep everyone topped up at all times.
Yeah, like I have to be honest, Tatsu's draft there just had a lot of utility for his team. Essentially there. All right, and well, looking at that, looks like we're in the pre-ban phase. So pretty much let's get there, and Ark, take it away there for us.
All right, sounds good. Hey, sorry about that. Clicked the wrong thing early. The bracket is now updated, so we do have Tatsu taking it at 2-0 there, by the way. So anybody that thought that was weird, we're good. We're back on that. We're going to wait until that pre-ban phase is over, and then we'll be back on with you. Sorry, I pressed it too preemptively. Here we go. All right, so round 2, we've got ourselves chair desk guy, who we all know and love as Washable Platypi, and Setsuna. So we've got ourselves a car versus level up together team. That's weird. Should we even be casting this? Probably not.
Ark, okay. As a professional caster, I will remain objective, but Platty, let's go, baby. Bring it home.
Nah, dude, Setsu's got this. No problem. We jump into the bands. We've got Tenebria and Ruel. Interesting. In advance, do you think those were bands that they chose to work with their own teams, or were those things that they had scouted against each other? Thoughts?
Well, they both train together a lot, do a lot of practice matches. Setsuna is a very, very strong player. So I'm not sure. I don't know if they're going to be trying to pick units that the other won't expect. This is going to be an amazing match for sure.
Right off the bat.
Lilac, as a unbiased third party, do you have any opinions?
Well, I can't be truly unbiased because Washable Platypi is in my guild, but I will try my best. I'm also kind of curious how people are still really picking Arbiter Vildred very early on with ML Haste in the pool and unbanned, because I do think that ML Haste does bring there it is.
There it is.
There's a lot of tools to completely shut down what Arbiter Vildred wants to do. So we are going to see if that gets showcased over here.
True. Carr cheering for his own team. Definitely. Dude, this is like the most balanced match I've ever seen. Super proud of you. Oh, he goes with Dizzy as well, too. Oh, fun. There's like a lot of like damage dealers is what I'm seeing on Washable side, other than the only, I guess he does have DN there to kind of be the protection, then hoping to stunt a lot of the damage coming in from Dizzy. Whereas you're seeing a much more Bruiser-esque plus RB and the invisible Tenebria. What do you think about this? What do you last pick? Okay.
Well, you definitely want to last pick some sort of answer to the Dizzy, right? And then then the problem is that thing just gets banned out.
Yeah.
So I would be surprised here. So now Setsuna's in like kind of a weird decision, right? Does he ban the ML Haste so that his RB can function, or does he ban the Dizzy so that his team doesn't get
Does he
debuff?
force the Dizzy in this one? Like, is that a forced Dizzy ban just because the Destiny, just because on the off chance? Okay, on the off chance. Wow, I'm actually a little surprised. Or was that a 50-50 that I just wasn't noticing? Was there more of a 50-50
Well,
chance?
there was definitely some sort of mind game, trying to decide who's gonna do what, and trying to predict what the other person was gonna do. I think we got sort of kind of an unanswered Dizzy, and this time is a little bit weird, right? Because this time the S10 does in fact have immunity on, and so does the Alencia.
Things that you can bank on when you're playing at a high level is that most people will have immunity for a lot of their stuff, right? Whereas at the lower ranks, you'd never even have to worry about that.
And then here's the next level play, right? So if you have immunity on some of your key units, you can get away with not having immunity on some of your other key units, right? Because then you still feel very awkward to use the Dizzy S3. It's only gonna land on some people. So it always becomes a very weird decision on whether or not when you want to use the S3. And that's where Dizzy's power falls off a little bit. When you have to make the decision and you have to spend a couple turns just not using your S3 debuffs.
Yeah, that's a good point. Being almost forced into when you're allowed to play it, sort of almost shuts her down a little bit towards the beginning. Interesting.
Right, and then that becomes even a little bit more complicated when there's another unit who can then go ahead and apply the immunity after the first turn. But we see that even though the Dizzy was relatively unchecked, so to speak, in terms of draft, because there weren't any cleansers, the fact that she had to delay her skill usage for one turn allowed the enemy team to just go ham on damage on the first turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much taking out the SSB immediately.
Dizzy lived at 1 health here. Do you think that's going to be enough to... She lands a ton of debuffs. Let's see how this pans out.
I mean, it's going to depend on whether or not the Alencia does anything. And then there's also the Arbiter's second life, right? So this here is going to be a very rough turn.
That was with the Alexa proc happening for the greater attack buff.
I think Dizzy's dead.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. That's going to take out at least the Dizzy. Yep. Yeah, this this is looking pretty in.
Which is interesting here because we do get to see the Dizzy both work super well, and the Dizzy gets kind of gimped a little bit in this matchup. So I think if you are going to rely on Dizzy, you want some sort of, ideally, if you can afford it in the draft, it'll be super important for you to have some sort of Dispel for Dizzy, because we know that Dizzy by herself is a pretty big win condition, right? The moment she lands her debuffs and the moment she sticks it out, a lot of the enemy team just becomes neutered.
Very true.
Yeah, it's very true. All right, well, it looks like Platypi not taking it in the first round. So Setsuna up 1 game into this next one. Man, guys, it's still lagging so bad. I'm just going to ignore it. Chat, you ignore it too. Do whatever you can. Just stop paying attention.
We'll power through.
Stop it. All right. Moving forward, we do have... So Setsuna is going to be up 1 into this next game. What does Platypi do to deal with this drafting? Because it felt like he was trying to play his own game in that first series. Like, he definitely was picking, I would assume, his own comforts. And I know that he had been talking a lot about, like, now mind you, I don't think he never told me any of his, like, strategies here necessarily, but I'm going to guess that a lot of these high-end players moved around a lot of their gear and are changing out stuff as often as they can. Do we know do we kind of expect that?
I have a little bit of intel on that, Ark. I don't mind sharing. There was close to 20 mil spent in prep for this day, so let's not count Platty out yet. I did like his drafting. Just like Lilac said, though, the fact that he had to wait on the Dizzy, by the time she was able to S3 and get going, it was pretty much over.
But was that, I guess my question is, was that something that could have been noted in advance? Like, what were the key pieces that Setsuna picked that could have lined you up to be like, oof, I'm actually kind of playing a risky play here to pick Dizzy into this particular comp? Like, what was it that kind of made that? Does that make sense? Like, how would you know not to pick Dizzy into that situation because you've almost taken?
I guess in this case, the Dizzy just needed a little bit of support. I think it's important, as I mentioned earlier, for the Dizzy, if you're going to use Dizzy into heavy damage lineups, you want to get her debuffs up as soon as possible, right? And for that to happen, she is going to need a bit of support. So someone with a fast Dispel. So things like Cerise come to mind, things like... there's a lot of Dispel options that come to mind. If you can get rid of those immunity buffs, that's when Dizzy can go to town, right? Yeah. So I think if you are drafting against Setsuna and having witnessed what just happened in round 1, you have to take note that he is prepared. He definitely looks prepared to play against Dizzy, and you need to respect the sheer amount of damage he can output on the first turn. So you're either gonna have to draft something that supports your Dizzy, draft something a little bit more defensive, because I mean, Setsuna definitely respects the ML haste. So if you just blindly pick ML haste into Arbiter Vildred, that's not going to fly because he's just going to ban it out. And then if you don't have an answer to the damage that Arbiter Vildred puts out, then you're in some trouble.
Gotcha.
That's a good point, Lilac. So then if he picks ML haste here, you're saying he has to ban Arby or have some kind of, because it could be the repeat of last match, right? He picks ML haste, it gets banned, and Arby's still left up?
Well, I think if you want the ML haste to stick into the RB lineup, you definitely need another form of mitigation that counteracts what the Arbiter Villager wants to do. So in this case, he has opted for to pick the S10 and then pick the Dizzy. So what that does is we saw last match that Setsuna has immunity on the S10, right? That kind of stopped what Dizzy wanted to do on the first turn, because we don't really care that much about the Alencia. So now that the S10 is on the side of Dizzy, and we know for a fact that the Arbiter Villager did not have immunity, it's going to give Dizzy a lot more room to set up way earlier. So there's a good chance that we see Setsuna pick some sort of answer or immunity giver to counterplay this Dizzy, because now this Dizzy is starting to have a lot more space to do what she wants to do.
Gotcha. So are we expecting, okay, an Elena or maybe like a Vivian or something to pop out this fast enough to get that up?
Remember from the prelim matches arc,
Yeah,
Setsuna used the Vivian last pick a lot.
Right. Which was, I mean, very solid. And then the question then on Platypi's side is he forced into a quick cleanser? Like a quick stripper as well, aka, I mean, you're not, I'm just trying to think of some off the top of my head. Alencia is not even one of those, plus Alencia is off the board. Are you down to, I know you've got Basara as an option. How many other options do we have that can really be fast and also strip what you're going to need to strip before it's Dizzy's turn?
Well, Setsuna has opted not to go for the defensive immunity. Instead, he wanted to bring in the Charles as sort of like a counterplay, because Charles does have a lot of room to get a lot of hits in, right? Between Seaside Bellona and Dizzy both being AoE and both being blue. So we're going to see if Charles does anything here. He opted to go instead for the cleanser in the form of Lilius. Now, that's a little bit more risky, but we're going to
see an ML Rin come out.
Yep. So ML Rin is actually a dispeller, and she's a fast one at that.
Yep, that's true.
Which means, so it's pretty much gonna be assumed that the Lilius has immunity. So the immunity on Lilius does prevent what the Dizzy wants to do.
Dang. So the Vildred is gone, and so is the Spectenny. Let's just see how this plays out.
It's gonna be a hard one, because the Charles does represent a lot of threat to Platypi's team, and Platypi doesn't really have any way to recover HP other than FCC barriers. So once again, we see that the Dizzy is in an awkward spot, and she can't really, S3 on the first turn. She also didn't get any violin procs.
Right, and I think that sort of touches on my initial question of like, so what do you draft? I mean, the ML Rin is a spot that can get rid of one thing, but if your Dizzy is still faster than your ML Rin, are you essentially in a spot now where you're basically still having to waste turn one on your fast Dizzy because there's nothing there to actually do anything with it?
I think it would have worked if it was Speed Tune. I'm not sure what if it was like a last pick and it wasn't quite ready, but
so we are seeing that he is definitely taunted at this point as well. Does he have the ability to cleanse? I'm trying to think of the characters that I'm seeing there. Does he even have the ability to get rid of that taunt, or does he
does not?
Does not. That's what I'm thinking too. So he's going to be forced into using S1s now for at least another 2 turns. So loses turn 1, has 2 more turns of having to use S1 on Dizzy. Are we just hoping to get some like RNGesus big stuns, or like?
Well, RNGesus big stuns will definitely do a lot of things, but the other interesting thing to note is that the Charles is not that healthy at this point. So one lucky crit from SSB right here can potentially get rid of the threat that is Charles.
Nice.
And there's the crit.
That's the
and
second
she does
crit,
that,
actually.
yeah. Right, so he's a little bit low. DN is gonna barrier it up, but not that effectively. So then it comes down to a matchup of whether or not gets the stun.
Oh my gosh, does get the stun.
Very, very good. I'm staying objective.
Turns out all you needed was skill at the game. Just get crits, get stuns, and it works out.
You heard it here, boys. It's all about the skill in this game. That's what it takes.
And we know that Setsuna has used pretty much all of their cleanses for at least 2 more turns. So, which means there's a good chance that this Dizzy might be released before then. That unhealable buff is pretty big, because that just and the return skill. That's right. With the smash, with the dispel. But unfortunately, the Charles is a little bit too low, I think.
Yep,
and there he goes.
Well done. Interesting. Okay. This is interesting. So I think he just opted into something that was just like, listen, it's okay if my Dizzy can't go right off the bat because you're not going to be able to take me out. I'm gonna be able to move around enough buffs right off the bat and sort of take out at least one character. And by doing so, he was still very much okay, especially with the SSB going through because he's getting lots of rebuttals from the S2 to sort of decide on who his next target has to be with the defense break. This is interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Good,
and also
good
just
adaptation.
having no RB in play just lowered the damage, so Dizzy's actually able to take more than one turn at this point.
Okay, we see that the Dizzy is definitely going to be able to start moving. He checks the Lilius S3. Turns out the Lilius S3 is available, so he can't really start moving. So you see that, like Dizzy. So then I have a question for you guys, right? At what point do you just say, you know what, I'm just gonna use the skills on Dizzy because you've waited the entire match. Lilia's got her S3 back up. Essentially, it's just wasted damage at this point, right?
I think he's kind of waiting. My assumption is he's waiting and sort of banking on the idea that the SSB gets up some kind of defense break that is too dangerous, and at that point forces her, like this one right here. That is too dangerous for the Lilius not to cleanse, right? Unless he has the S2 up from the. But will it even matter? He lives. He does live.
Yeah, you see that the problem there is that with every S2 that SSB puts out, that's a potential mind's eye on the Alencia. So you're really trading that fact, right? So which means you're also putting your own Dizzy in danger. So we see that the Dizzy went the entire match without using anything but an S2. And at that point, do you just missed out on damage from the S3 because the S3 does hurt a little bit.
Yeah, it does. That's a good point. Like I think what we're seeing is that Dizzy's not just a auto face roll comp. She's kind of awkward to use at this moment.
And then, I think a big part of that is because there has been so many debuffs in the meta already, right? Everyone's familiar with Bazaar. Everyone's familiar with SSB because she puts out debuffs too, right? We've seen Tenny. We've seen a lot of debuffs. So people have started to learn how to play around debuffs. So Dizzy coming in this late into RTA also means that she's not coming in, as a huge surprise to anyone.
Right. Oh man, are these Mind's Eye procs literally going to be the saving grace for Setsuna, or is this going to be, or do we still think the control is still in Platypi's favor?
Oh, if I'm gonna put my money on, I'm gonna say that Setsuna is a little bit more favor right now because Alencia is also one of those units like APOC, Ravi, who are beefy by nature, and when frenzies start kicking in, she starts to hurt a lot, right? So it depends. It's gonna depend a lot on whether or not they can, proc Mind's Eye enough for her to do enough damage, and also Platypi's decision making on who to provoke at what time is going to be very crucial here.
So much good stuff. These guys, I can't actually believe how close this draft ended up being. There's definitely enough potential. Oh, there she goes. There goes the Rin. I was going to say enough potential to see there's a possibility on both sides. Setsuna is still going with a slightly bruisier comp for the late game. As a late game player at this point, because we are hitting the area of the higher frenzy stacks, and it's only going to get higher. I'm gonna tend to agree with you. Where are you at, Car? You think this is probably in Setsuna's favor, or are we still thinking that?
Yeah, unfortunately, just Alencia keeps getting better, and even though SSB likes to crit Earth units, it's not in a great spot.
I mean, we see a resist here, although I don't think that should change the outcome too much because the Alencia is just going to keep beating up the SSB, and at some point that health transfer is going to help kill the FCC also. Right. So unless Platypi makes some extremely smart moves and also get some really, really good crits here, it's going to be very challenging.
Plus having a healer on the opposite side is also making this very difficult to even get through anything that the Alencia has in the first place. Getting even through all these DN buffs is, as you can see, very, very clearly slowing this down, making this a lot harder. No defense break. Does get the proc here a second time. One crit, one non-crit. Did any of you guys see what frenzy stack we're on? I'm curious to know. Next time we see it, we'll have to see how far we are at this point. I'm gonna guess somewhere 5 or 6 at least at this point.
Well, 2 more frenzy stacks, and people are gonna start feeling some damage. Yep. I'd say.
Agreed.
So far, do you guys think Platy's playing his outs here, just trying to, I guess, kill the DN?
I mean, it's gonna be it's very awkward for him to do so. So if he does get rid of the DN, he does stand a higher chance to win, because it's gonna, with the DN up, it's gonna be nigh impossible to take out both of them, right? And then it becomes a race of whether or not you can take out both the DN and the Alencia before they take out your SSB.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, we'll see if the counter procs any Mind's Eyes onto Alencia.
Yep. And
I'm actually surprised that she went for the defense. I mean, she went for the S3 here, because I think Setsuna's win condition is basically SSB dies. Especially at doing the S3 before the skill null. But I guess he really favors the defense buff here, because the defense buff, as we saw in the previous series, is really huge in terms of damage mitigation.
Hard thing is, though, is you're still dealing with going into the skill null and potentially still getting a defense break. Oh, gets the defense break into the Mind's Eye.
I think this could be it.
This should be it.
Yeah, that's
because
it right there.
There's not much that one FCC can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually got the Mind's Eye, not from the SSB counter, but from the S3 from FCC, unfortunately.
Okay.
There Platy goes plugging.
All right. Give a man a platform. This is what happens. Good stuff. Guys, GG's across the board.
GG's.
Well done to Setsuna and to Watchable Platypi. And it looks like Setsuna is going to be taking it into the next round. So before we move into the next matches, we're going to head this back over to the analyst desk right now.
What's up, guys? That game 2 was pretty exciting. Felt like there was a chance it could have gone both ways. Let's start this off with Tyler. Let's just talk about game 1's ML Haste pick during the drafting phase and that Dizzy placement there.
Yeah, I'm super hyped to see ML Haste, being picked. He's such a new unit, just came out on the latest patch. For those that don't know, he is designed to be a revive counter, or in this case, an Arbiter Vildred counter, with an incredibly thick 60% barrier of his max HP upon an enemy revive. With that being said, though, he's such a shoo-in counter for Arbiter Vildred that you should expect him to be banned. So him only drafting one counter to the Arbiter Vildred, he should have expected that to be banned. And once it did happen, he didn't have the survivability or the counters to last through that. In addition to that, we saw an early soul burn come out on Setsuna's side from the Spectre Tenebria, hitting the SSB and killing her, but also sharing a dramatic portion of that damage with Dizzy, who is placed in front, rather than the more tanky DM. And as soon as the two units are completely shut down and killed, that was game.
Yeah, I have to be honest, the Dizzy being placed in front was a little bit surprising to me, rather than having DN being put in front there. So not sure what happened there. With maybe didn't have enough time to swap it over. Well, game 2, I think a lot of you guys are excited to see, but we did see ML Rin pick. So our general resident degenerate ML Rin lover, Panshui, will talk about her.
So the ML Rin pick from Washable was honestly a shocker. It was quite a pressure pick, definitely. It held on to quite a while. However, as much as I want to say, and I want to give credit for my favorite girl in the game, I can't say that it was the best of picks. In this kind of situation, Washable probably needed to pick more of a better utility in terms of probably a healer. ML Rin did held off the DN's buff for at least one turn, but because of the turn order of how things were set up, ML Rin didn't really have a chance to really do anything. Didn't allow the Dizzy to really show her true cancer, all of the debuffs that could have happened. Him also using the immunity up early, even though the Alencia's turns was coming up, was actually quite a killer too. Much respect though, it was quite good. There was that. So, well played.
Yeah, that ML Rin came with a bit of surprise. I was hyped because, we've never seen an ML Rin there in a RTA tournament. But on that, Setsuna's Game 2 draft with Lilius and Charles, Once in Love. Do you want to give us a bit of insight on how that was really good?
So I felt like the Lilius. Wait, can you hear me first? Are we good?
Yes, we're good. We're
Oh
good. this
wow,
time.
you can actually hear me, not muted. Okay, sweet. I really like the Charles and Lilius as the last pick. We saw him looking towards possibly taking an Akali, going for a fast snipe setup, but I like that he went for the more bruiser setup. Having the Lilius in there and the Charles also gave him an option to say, okay, does Platypi have to ban Arby? Does he have to ban the Lilius? Like, what is he going to look to ban? Like, does he want to be able to deal with the cleanse? Setsuna, I assume, knew he was going to ban the Dizzy right off, but wanted to have that like mind game there. And that mind game, I think, is actually what allowed him to have a pretty big advantage, right? If he doesn't ban the Lilius, that he gets a lot of dual attacks with the bruisers, with the Charles, with the Alencia, the double attack buff, the defense buff, and he has defense break from the Alencia still. So overall, I feel like it was better that he went for the bruiser side instead of going for like the fast snipes. With Platypi's team having the SSE there, knowing he's going to ban the Dizzy, he doesn't want to bring in those snipe comps with the Akali, like Acid, etc., because he knows he's not going to get the one shot.
Yeah.
Overall, I feel like Setsuna's draft going like the bruiser was just like really, really good, and we saw it in the first match as well. It was really well done.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think Setsuna's drafts in both Game 1 and Game 2 were both really solid there, in my opinion. Just a quick question. I see some people asking what does the buy mean in chat, just to answer so people aren't confused. The buys mean that each person that got the first place in the 8 different streamers tournaments get essentially a free round. They don't have to fight the first round. So everyone fighting here in the first rounds here are the people that got second and third place in one of the 8 streamers tournaments there.
Yeah, let me clarify that. So I said it made it look like Setsuna was going to go for the Dizzy ban. Though I misworded that. What I meant to say is it made it look from Platypi's side like if he bans the Lilius, then he doesn't have to deal with the Dizzy, right? But he still has the damage from the Charles and the Alencia to actually deal with it. So it's more of like a mind game in the draft phase.
Yeah, I think that's also part of the thing. Like you bring in the units that you think people are gonna have trouble with, that it's gonna counter them really hard, and so it makes them have to make a choice between what they need to ban, and well, especially if both of them aren't gonna be an issue there, which one's a bigger issue to them there. All right, so with that said, we are gonna get on to the next match, and pre-bans are gonna be starting. So I'll hand it off back to Ark.
Thank you very much, sir. We are just about ready. They're about to start the next setup here. So Takar and Lilac, thoughts? Where are we going on this one? Jinx or Archanis? Did you guys get a chance to see these guys play? Which tournaments? I missed these fights altogether. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm ready to cast now. But what are we thinking? Like, were there any specialty picks that you guys happened to see before, or are we all kind of like in the dark, not knowing exactly where it's going to be? And also, yeah, to speak to that as well for all of the buy rounds as well, for everybody that saw that, you'll notice that that a lot of these guys that they're going against in these next rounds were those number 1 spots, and so these are going to be these matches are only going to get beefier, only going to get crazier as the day goes on. So this is like very, very exciting, super pumped. But anyways, back to the question: do any of you guys have any pre-intel on either of these two players?
I do not. Lilac, do you have anything?
Oh, I think it's also going to be difficult to just throw out any predictions, because I'm pretty sure that the players will put a lot of time into preparations for this tournament in particular. Yeah. So I'll be very surprised if they came in here with their units very similar strategies as they previously displayed, right? Because I think that the draft is so incredibly important. And you cannot assume that your opponent is going to draft similarly to how they did before. And I like that the analyst talks about the drafting phase, because honestly, in RTA, a lot of the match outcome is decided in the draft, right? And a lot of these players that are ranked so high are not ranked so high because they have super OP units or anything. It's because they have a lot of experience, they have a lot of knowledge, they know how to draft you into a corner. Because the execution during the match itself is not that hard, right? You are green, you hit blue. You are blue, you hit red. stuff like that. There's a couple of minor decision making, but for the most part, if you can draft well, if you can draft your opponents into awkward positions, that's how you win games in RTA.
That's a very good point. Very good point. And
Just know your colors. So, Ark, real quick, I see Mango's rooting for, was it Archanis? Do you know what streamer is representing Jinx, or who is Jinx representing? I should say.
Jinx. Let me double check that real quick. I'm so sorry. I don't even have a list in front of me.
Just so we
Jinx,
can stir up a little.
Hold on one second. I got you. Jinx is on.
Ooh, sneak peek of the cards.
Yeah. You're welcome. I don't think everybody else can see this, but you can see it. Jinx is on Panshui. It's Panshui.
It's Panshui. Okay, so we got a Panshui versus Mango match.
Yeah, this is a Panshui pick, boys. Panshui's team. So if you're looking to build yourself a card, you know where to look. It's under Panshui's team, under Jinx. They're restarting. Okay. No worries. Yeah, so they're going to be restarting their game. We'll get into that in just a second. Back to what I was going to ask, though, was with kind of speaking into what you were already talking about there. My question then is, with Haste, ML Haste, with Dizzy, with LFL, with the potential changes that have happened from last weekend even into this weekend, because draft phase is so unbelievably important for these guys, do you think that a lot has changed? Like, are we now looking at a fresh meta, or do you think that a lot of the high-end players are just going to kind of just envelop, like none of these characters do anything different than we were already seeing anyways, so we're just going to kind of envelop them generally into the meta? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely think that ML Haze, because Arbiter Wildred is such a big force in any draft, in any pick, in anything really, ML Haze does bring a lot to the table in that sense. And we see the respect ban from Setsuna earlier, right? The problem with drafting ML Haze into Arbiter Wildred is that you have to be cognizant that if your ML Haze gets banned, because there's a good chance that it does, do you have a secondary plan to the Arbiter Wildred? That's the concerns here. Like, we have all these powerful units that just enter the meta, and it's not surprising, right? Everyone knows that these units are good and what they're good against. So it's not just about picking the unit and then hoping that they don't ban you, because if they ban you and you just pick this because you think it's a good unit, does it synergize with the rest of your team? Does the rest of your team answer their team if they get banned? Stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that speaks to the complexity of, like, really what this RTA whole thing is all about. Pick ban phase, and how can you make that work around every single thing that you're doing? There's no one individual character. It's like all of it all together. So that's super good. This is going fast. They are going through really, really quickly. All right, speaking of this, boys, we got ourselves an FCC and an Arbiter Wildred pre-ban. What direction are these guys going?
That's a lot of damage.
That is a lot of damage.
Left side's looking the typical Ox, Athletica, Cdom. These guys were very confident on their picks. Like you said, Dark, they're really quick.
And
right.
A lot of speed.
They are really quick. So I think this first match is going to be decided fairly quickly. In fact, we probably get a decent idea of whoever goes first. It's a good chance that there's not going to be too much left standing on the enemy team.
That's a good point. So, like you just spoke into, we're going to see a lot of speed checks here. Is this a triple S Wildred for the extra speed imprint?
We would never know. But there's 4 contenders for speed here, right?
It's got to be a speed imprint, right?
You got what? Shuri, Cerise. No, even Kayron could be fast. You just have no idea on this one.
Yeah, we have so many contenders for speed. All we know is that probably SSB is not going first. So we'll see. I think.
God, I love
do you think it's
Wales.
just decided by whoever goes first?
So
I think it is, but I'm very excited to see. It could also be if SSB lives, if she's not a.
Well, the Kayron standing there is gonna be an issue, right? Because everything on the side, on Jinx's side, can die, but the Kayron can't. So we're gonna see, if Jinx does manage to outspeed, we're gonna see what Kayron can do. And I always like watching these speed cleave combo teams go to work, right? Because it's like an orchestra. You have to. It's not that easy to pull off. It's not just about using Alot's S2 and then going ham. That's a lot of souls right off the bat.
That is a ton of souls on the side of Jinx. Archanis actually has no souls on that side. Does, however, get to go first with the A. coli. Who are we going to go into here? Okay, that makes sense.
Yep, so we're going to see that he opts to just takes out.
Note that they all have immunity, so that silence at the end does not actually hit all the other people. Again, things to think about when building a cleave team for all of you guys that don't have a ton of immunity. That's going to be tough to do, and these guys proving really quickly that, like, hey, the immunity was way too worth it there. He would have been full done if it wasn't for those immunity pieces, so that's huge.
Oh, the bigger question here is can Jinx answer this Kayron? Because the Kayron is gonna pick up a broom and he's gonna sweep, and when he does, it's gonna hurt. What answer do you realistically have against this Kayron? Because he is going to kill someone, and he is going to kill someone again.
With not being able to see the A. coli, you've got the that hidden damage there, plus at least at minimum 1 turn, but probably 2 turns on the Kayron, because most likely this Kayron can snipe any which one of those 3 pretty easily. They're usually not terribly tanky. This is looking pretty good for, I would say Archanis, right? Am I missing something here?
No, I think you're correct. Do you guys think maybe he should have, just as a potential out, hold the stun on that Tenebria?
Well, it wouldn't have worked, right? Because
of he gets a kill and it extends the immunity, yeah.
Right, so what could have been a potential play was if the S10E was holding Violin, so she can go for the Soul Burns, get rid of all of the debuffs, including the immunity, and go for the stun on the Kayron, perhaps. But, since we didn't get to see that, we're going to see this Kayron pick up this broom here. So it's going to be whether or not the number of stacks of defense is enough. And this right here is going to decide the matchup.
This is it. Plus he's got greater attack buff up. Is this it? Does not finish.
Not enough.
Wow.
Enough. Dude, that feeling when your characters are not just fast, not just tanky, but also can just survive any hit. Oh my gosh. That was pretty nuts.
Well, the the S2 stacks on S10E definitely came in there, right? So I think, I like that play. Jinx played those out. He killed off the things around Kayron, trying to stack that S2 up, so that he had a good chance of living. And he did. Rewarded for a good play.
No, that's awesome. And I'm actually glad to see, I kind of was hoping to see some cleave comps, because I know a lot of the big players in here, a lot of them actually don't tend to cleave as much. So it's really fun to watch. It's fun. It's quick. There's no, like you said, it's like an orchestral dance. There's a lot of just finesse to those particular comps and really speed tuning them properly. That's awesome. I want to see more of those. I hope they decide to go at it again, but do you think they'll do it a second time?
I'd be worried if I was one of the players there, because that could have went any way there at the end.
So it looks like they banned the exact same things. Jinx, getting first pick this time, does opt for the F-Litica.
I actually really like F-Litica. I think F-Litica is such a great unit. She brings so much to the table. And then Archanis goes ahead and denies the A-Lots. So now it becomes a little bit awkward for this, for the Symphony to play. And it's looking, again, like these players they're just going to go. They want to hit fast and they want to hit hard.
Yeah. Which I'm cool with. Honestly.
Same here. I respect it.
It's fun. And you just never know. I just can't wait. I hope they pick some different ones too, just to see if they can mix it up a bit.
Well, Archanis still has some room to pivot into a more bulky lineup, which I would personally be super down for, because I think the most beautiful matches are the ones where the cleaver goes against a more bulkier team, because then you have to select who to hit, what to hit, when to hit, and a lot of things. And you get so many turns, you get so many moves, you get a lot of decision making. That's when a player pulls it off, it looks really good, and when a player does not pull it off, it looks really bad. But it doesn't look like we're gonna pivot off of that. It looks like we're just gonna, go cleave.
It looks like they've got the 2 hidden treasure comp again. They've got the A. coli into the Spectre Tenebria, those 2 gems that just can't be found. Such a pain in the butt to deal with. As we saw last week at the level up prelims, we saw that picked several times. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, is this still gonna? This still feels like it's gonna come down to speed. Thoughts? Do you think it's speed on this one once again?
Yep. And do you see the Mersa just for a speed imprint?
Well, Mirsa also hits surprisingly hard. So you gotta respect the Mirsa.
For sure.
You can't just assume she's just there for the speed imprint. But Jinx knows that the A. coli is pretty fast, right? So he decides to not only pick double speed imprint this time, and also, thinking really hard about the Watcher Shuri ban to get rid of the. I'm not Watcher Shuri. What am I saying? Red Shuri ban, trying to get rid of the speed imprint. So
Yeah.
we're gonna see how this one met. The unknown here is we don't know how fast Archanis A-Lots is.
Okay,
So
bans
we
the
are gonna
Athletica and the fire. And the fire Shuri. Okay.
Yeah, so it's 2 speed imprints versus no speed imprints. We're gonna see if this Bazaar goes first or the A-Lots goes first, and that's gonna determine quite a bit. Double checks to make sure that his speed imprints are in fact speed imprints and not self imprints, and we're just gonna go in.
So quick question. You build, when you guys are building your Oxlots, right? Are you used to having an Oxlots that's going to be faster or Cerise? Because Cerise is obviously more naturally built fast than the Oxlots. Were we expecting to see that? Because it does look like turn order. We are looking at Cerise a little bit earlier too. Oh my gosh, there's no immunity this time.
Yeah, and this time
I
around,
believe it is quite over. Unless some
triple
miracle-
silence.
Oh my gosh, was that intentional? The real question is, did Archanis think, I bet if I pull a couple of his things away and start to get deeper into his pool, I bet he doesn't have immunity on everything. Let's go.
I think Archanis really had a lot of confidence in his A. coli, right? Because we're staring down at 2 speed imprints on the Bazaar versus no speed imprints on the enemy team, and the A. coli still outsped. So that was I think that's what determined the match here. So this is gonna be a pretty quick match. I mean,
I think so.
Mirza just dodge everything. Oh, she's not gonna dodge that one.
The true
oh, she dodges that
50%
one.
character, does it happen?
punish
Oh,
the
no,
A-Lots.
we're just going to yield out.
So it was as simple as he thought the 2 speed imprints would give him the edge over the A. coli, correct?
Yep, I think it came down to that, and guess it wasn't enough.
Not quite. Well, dang. All right, so we're looking at a 1-on-1. This is the first 1-on-1 we've seen yet in the tournament. So great job to Archanis to just have the mental fortitude to just be ready. Just be ready to go all right, dude, I got you. I see you the first time around. Let's do this. We got a real match on our hands, which is actually super exciting. And it looks like they are going to keep sticking, at least so far, to doing these speed comps. What do you think happens when they find their way into the next match? For all of you guys that got to watch Suck last time, does Suck's team compositions that he tends to draft, is that going to be problematic for these super quick cleave comps? It's interesting to see that that's what's going to be happening next, is moving in to that, because it seems like they're both going in this direction. It looks like the band phase is happening. Be right there. Hold on. All right. So we begin again.
And to nobody's surprise, the A. coli was taken out.
Yes. Now we can confirm the speed is real.
Quick question.
Right, and now we go back to the speed. So A. coli outsped me, no
game
problem.
3 is
Get rid of the A. coli. We play the speed game yet again. Let's rumble.
Hey, just a quick update to all of you guys too. If you had thought the same thing I did for a second, that wait a minute, wasn't Jinx first pick last time? So the way that we're doing it is the first person to get first pick or last pick will be first pick on the first game. Second game is guaranteed that they will swap places, and the third game is actually random a second time, so as to keep it fair for everybody. So just keep that in mind. This was intentionally done. They've picked this. They know what they're getting into, but that wasn't. This isn't a misplay. That was correct. They're doing it again, dudes. They're going for it again.
Yeah.
These people are very confident in their speed tuning, in their speed units, and in their gameplay. So we know that the A. coli is pretty fast, so we get rid of that. So now we're gonna see if that works out.
Gets rid of the A. coli, and also you might notice as well, Jinx also now has 2 of his units that were immunity before from round 1 back in again to maybe deal with some of these other problems that may also put some debuffs up early. I think that's huge that he was able to get those right off the bat. What do you guys think? I mean, just thinking about it, just because Jinx had such a strong first round, will that be enough for Archanis to be able to break through the second time around? He does go Crow as his 4th pick.
So that's when we start to see the true orchestra play, right? Because now you have this crowd who's threatening a horse, probably has some bulk on him. So how are you going to navigate this one between the crowd, the S10A, and the K-Rock?
Just quick question. Is Crow okay on his own in this composition, or what else do you have to take? Okay, Absolulius. Okay.
Right. So the thing, even if it wasn't a Lilius ban, the question here is that what kind of artifact is Crow holding? Because if Crow has a Holy Sack and has a decent amount of speed, there's a good chance he gets the horse off. I think it's going to be pretty difficult for Jinx if Archanis decides to ban the Judge here, because outside of Judge, there really isn't that
Yep.
much. There it
There's
is.
not a lot of
we
extra
see
damage.
it.
You're basically going to deal with the C-Dom, and that's
Right.
basically it.
Sidon presents a lot of single target damage. However, she is very bursty, and she's gonna struggle taking out Kayron, Kraut, and Lilius. So I'm immediately this draft with the surprise pivot turn, I'm gonna favor Archanis right off the bat.
Yeah,
we're gonna see.
Just out of curiosity, C-Dom into Kraut, is that like even like the strongest C-Doms? Do they tend to crush through Krauts? Because I know mine sure doesn't. That's
I don't think so.
gonna be tough.
That's the thing about CDOM, right? Because CDOM's damage is very variable in the sense that she gets more damage for every crit her teammate gives her, right? So depending on the rest of her team, she is going to, we're gonna see if the CDOM is gonna have enough, and we're gonna see if that Crow has that Crow is just confirmed Aureus pick,
Aureus,
so
yeah.
she doesn't have to fear the Holy Sack anymore.
But that also does mean that the quick hit on the C-Dom back over at the Crow could actually end the Crow early, just due to soaking so much of that initial damage.
But we are going to see the reset on the Crow here, so the Crow's not going to get to do anything. And also the skill nullifier. So we're going to see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. When experienced speed cleavers navigate around the opponent's units, and when they do it well, it looks really good.
Music to my ears. I'm enjoying a beautiful orchestra right now.
Right here, right now. So we're going to see if this is enough.
Was that a misplay? Using the S3 on the what do you call it? Fire or Faithless Litica on the Crow. Was that a misplay? Just unnecessarily doing it, knowing that he was going to be able to pop it the very next turn?
Well, I think he was just afraid of the Crow's horse, right? Because what if the Crow lived, or for some reason, because the second turn of CDOM, she's not usually as potent as the first turn, because the first turn, she gets a lot of stuff.
Right. Archanis down to his final saving grace of, oh my gosh, into the skill.
He's staring down 4 skill nullifiers.
This is going to be pretty rough, to say the least.
Exactly. So Jinx did manage to go ahead and play as a very beautiful musical piece. And it does look like Jinx managed to, pick apart this team despite not having Judge as an option.
Yep. Wow. That
was very beautiful to see.
That was very cool. Very, very cool. Well, dang, guys, it's going to look like Jinx is going to take it 2-1 over Archanis. Thank you, guys. GG's.
GG's,
well done.
guys.
Hand this back over to the analyst's desk.
All right. That was the first time we've seen it go into round 3. And not to mention, that was also the first time in this tournament we've seen cleaves happening, especially from Jinx. All 3 rounds, we saw cleaves. So round 1, we'll start off with round 1 here, and Tybro will talk about that, and how Assassin Coley outspeeding that was interesting there.
Yeah, for sure. Jinx, we know, is a cleave player from Panchui's tournament previously, which allowed him to qualify for this tournament. Very impressed with that A. Coley. Wow, outspeeding, even double speed him was insane. But even though A. Coley did kill the Flitica, which, for those that don't know, does inflict a silence on the rest of the team if you land that kill. Immunity, Set saves the day yet again. That was incredibly impactful for Jinx's side. Even after that, we were looking at a potential Kayron sweep after the fact, and he did seemingly, I believe, proc the greater attack buff. But a lot of people might forget that Spectre Tenebria on a death on the battlefield does get buffed defense as well as attack. I believe it's 10% up to 5 times is her S2 passive. And living the Kayron S1, obviously, this game.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things is we saw Assassin Coley outspeed on that round 1, and so just to transition into round 2 there, let's talk about that, how Assassin Coley once again outsped that, and Panshui, or sorry, Once in Love, can you please talk about how that was a little bit crazy there being the case?
Yeah, so I think Jinx may have underestimated the speed on it just a little bit, fighting that Archanis' Akali in the first round. Something I would have mentioned is probably checking where that speed was after he moved in the first round would have given him the idea to know, oh, hey, this might outspeed me with 2 imprints. Because he ended up having the all-in on his Faithless Litica, which got banned in the second round, and ended up losing it even with the 2 speed imprints. Right, that Akali, full gamble, am I going to outspeed it? Am I not going to outspeed it? If he had seen it was 20% above, or if it was like 25% above, he could have probably had a better idea if he wanted to gamble the speed RNG. I do like that both players really went all out. They were super confident with their picks and everything, but that second draft just was a coin flip. It's I outspeed or I lose instantly.
Yeah, I was honestly a little bit surprised considering the fact that Shuri was banned. But even with Vildred and Mursa being there, the Assassin Coley still was banned. And we saw that was 98%. But given that fact still, Cerise also outsped the Bazaar from what we saw, which means both Assassin Coley and Cerise had a crazy amount of speed gear. And we saw that going into the third round, Jinx said, I'm having none of this. I'm going to ban that Assassin Coley out just to not have to worry about that. Well, round 3, Tiber, you want to talk? Oh, sorry, Panshui. Do you want to talk about how that
transition? You're still here, Panshui. We remember you. Don't worry.
Into that transition of Bruiser and how that might have been impactful on the game there for them.
I'm pretty sure the transition for Archanis to Bruiser was definitely because of the Akoli ban. Because his only unit that can test speed was more in particular on Cerise and the Akoli. I felt like that was like a forced transition. Jinx took the upper hand from there. Even though the Judge Kisia got banned, it didn't exactly matter. Going on around the game, Jinx did take to turn 1, but the most crucial part of that entire game was the 50-50 coin flip on the Bazaar S3. The unbuffable hitting the Kayron was the end for Archanis, for sure. There was no way that he was able to come back from that, especially when Jinx could have just cycled the C-Dom over and over, soul burned every single unit, and just pop one by one. And once the Kayron goes down, there was no threat left remaining for Archanis whatsoever.
Yeah,
one last thing, Gabe. And because we saw the Kayron do that in the first match, where the Kayron ended up with the one before against, even if he didn't hit the unbuffable, hitting the Faithless Litica strip was more than enough to stop that. Because we know from the first match that the A-Lots and the Spectenabria with 5 stacks will actually tank out that Kayron. So it was pretty good. Once the Athletica came through, it felt like it was kind of just GG in that sense.
Yeah, most definitely. The skill nullifier was actually really big because it denied so much damage. That basically means that Archanis wouldn't be able to do damage and wouldn't be able to come back.
Yeah. All right. Well, it looks like they're starting the pre-ban here, and we'll get back into that. And Ark, take it away.
All right. Thank you very much. Guys, damn, that's some good points. It looks like we're doing a pre-ban, and I'm watching it. Katie gave me the go-ahead, so I went for it. Whoops! It should be okay. It looks like it was mostly over anyways. Minty getting the first pick against Slap My Face. Guys, they're obviously expecting some kind of cleave is my expectation. We've got a Bazaar ban and an Athletica ban into the generally accounted for, what do we have here? SSB into A Builder. Interesting. These guys are bringing it back to before pre-ban phases.
Yeah, we might see a surprising pick from Minty, kind of like from Platypi's side. Let's see if he opts to choose a ML Haste here, because I know he does have one.
So while the draft is underway, as they continue to pick a lot of units that we're all familiar with, I actually want to ask you guys about the Bazaar ban. What do you guys think about Bazaar pre-banning, especially if this is the first round? Because I actually think that your first pre-ban against the opponent is very telling of what kind of strategies that you are vulnerable to. Don't you agree?
No, that's a good point. Also, is your microphone further away from your face? I feel like I'm having a harder time picking it up.
All right, is this better?
That's much
Yes.
better. So much better.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you want to repeat your question one more time just so we can all hear it?
Oh yeah, sure. Because I'm very particular about pre-banning Bazaars, especially on the first match of any given series, right? Because I feel like if you've pre-banned Bazaar, it's very telling of what kind of strategies you don't like to fight against, and you know that could potentially open yourself up to drafts around your quote-unquote weakness in the further series. So like, have you guys ever thought about this? What is your experience on that?
I think that's a really good point. I think who mentioned at the very beginning that we were expecting some cleaves coming out. Yeah, the pre-bans could be super telling here. On top of that, like all the players that got a buy, like Ark mentioned earlier, watching these, tons of intel coming out. Let's see who's taking notes.
There's the ML Haste coming in hot for a last 1 second pick. Does he get the?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm surprised they have them all built and ready.
Dang.
I mean, any RTA player knows how much of a force Arbiter Vildred is. So when you have such a blatant counter in the form of ML Haze, you'd be pretty much saving some resources.
Very true.
Right?
Yeah.
So I guess the question here is Slap now forced into the ML Haze ban? And when he bans out, and not if, the ML Haze, what is Minty going to do about it? Does his comp fall apart, and does he become very weak? He leaves the ML Haze stop.
Gets rid of the SSB. Yeah, that is interesting.
Well, I mean, we're gonna get to see the showcase, right? Because we never got to see it in the other matches.
There goes the Dizzy. Were we? I'm a little confused. So fill me in, because again, I feel like you guys have a lot more understanding of some of these pieces than I do. Was what we're seeing from Slap? Are we seeing a similar, like, comp style pick to what we were seeing Washable pick earlier? Is this like a similar style?
Well, I think in this case, okay, so let's take a look at the Molas here. So the ML Haze is Molad, so that's going to be huge. But to answer your question, I think he has a lot of confidence going into the match, and I think that he, has a lot of faith in his outgoing damage. I am slightly concerned because when the Arbiter pops, and Charon is going to, like, when you're playing against Arbiter Vildred without ML Haze on your team, you're very afraid of when to kill the Arbiter Vildred. You're consciously thinking about that, right? But once you have the ML Haze on your team, you stop thinking about that. You just want to get rid of him as soon as possible, because his S2, S3 combo is now pretty much nullified, right? So you see, it doesn't even break the barrier, gets the counter attack. Now this Arbiter Vildred is looking very weak. Might even get Scythe here to just straight up die.
I think it actually hit the skill null first, Lilac.
Skill null?
Yeah, from the RB you said it didn't break the barrier.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's an oversight. Good point. My bad. But I don't think it would have broken the barrier regardless.
True.
So not enough initial damage to take out the Arbiter. Is that going to be a problem if he ends up dying and coming back here pretty soon for some real damage? Because they don't have a lot of debuffs on their, or rather buffs on their side to be able to handle a ton of incoming, and they're about to get nailed pretty hard with these shotgun.
Surprised. Yeah, I'd be really surprised if he leaves the APOC unstunned, because if the APOC gets a turn, there's a good chance the Arbiter is dead.
Yeah.
But even then, I think that the Arbiter dying here is not that huge of an issue, right? Because we see that the Charon is very crippled. The Charon shouldn't last more than 2 or 3 turns from here. And then if you can take out the Apocalypse, then there really isn't too much damage threat left on the enemy team.
Right.
So I think that Minty focused a lot on countering the Arbiter Vildred, and he was pretty happy when ML Haze got through. But I don't think he necessarily has the cleanest answers here for the S10. And so, Arbiter Vildred might die here, but then that's just another S2 stack for the S10.
So,
yeah, he has no answer for S10.
Can you guys speak to then, just because we are now seeing ML Haste in a game and really getting to kind of like cast this out, what is the purpose of this character in your comp? Like, what makes you think, okay, I'm going to pick ML Haste into this. This is like the pick. This makes the most sense.
Well, in this case, it was kind of showcased, right? Because ML Haze, what ML Haze really, really, really allows you to do against Arbiter Vildred specifically is that he allows you to just get rid of the Arbiter Vildred without any concern, right? And he did that. But then what ML Hayes did not let him do is to answer, "Oh, just kidding."
Wow.
Just kidding.
Dang.
And I think the other thing that ML Hayes does bring to the table is the fact that his S3 does a very set amount of damage that ignores all buffs and all all defense. So I think one of the overlooked points about ML Hayes is that his ability to just do a very good amount of damage if you build him correctly.
Yeah, dang. All right, so it looks like J-Babes wins that one. Minty does concede.
Yeah, I think chat's a little bit confused. Minty may have killed the S10 guys, but I think he yielded out.
Yeah, he knew that he wasn't going to be able to finish that off. So that's why they did the back and forth emotes to each other, to letting each other know, like, hey, I respect you, but I had to get that last hit on that S10 because I hate her. And so he made sure it was known. No, it's good though. So. Dang. All right. Do we expect to see that character come out again? Because I don't know. Like, it didn't seem to do the excess damage that I think he would have hoped for the next part. Actually, sorry, we're going right into the pick band, so let's do it.
Let's go.
Does opt to go back. So they have the exact same bands again. Same exact bands. This time we're seeing the SSB on the other side though.
And we're gonna see the S10 on the other side too.
Yep, a nice trade of characters rather.
And I guess they both decided that they don't really want to play with Arbiter Vildred anymore unless they're waiting now.
There it is.
Just kidding.
Just waiting long enough just to make him think he could get it.
Could be some intel coming out that maybe Slap My Face knows Minty does not have RB.
Dang, is that actually true? Is that verified? You know that?
I know that, yes, for sure.
I see.
Like me, he is very salty about it.
Yikes.
And
so funny.
We do see the Vivian come out as an answer to the Dizzy. So that does some way like give a hint on how you're gonna ban after the draft is done, right? Because now you pick this Vivian, and then it would make the enemy want to believe that you are gonna be willing to leave the Dizzy up. And then on their end, they can then decide, whether or not they want to deal with your Vivian, stuff like that. There's a lot of mind games going on. I kind of appreciate what they're doing.
Makes me wonder if he's gonna just set up for the 50-50 and say like, hey, if you don't ban my Vivian, it seems like Slap is literally saying, I'm planning on you getting rid of my Vivian. That's the plan. So what do you have here as this final pick that's going to be able to make this 50-50 work in your favor?
I really like the Ruel pick. Because before the Ruel pick, I was going to say that even though Vivian comes out and she sufficiently deters the Dizzy for a good solid number of turns, it does leave himself a little bit more vulnerable to just raw damage, right? And we know that there is such raw damage in the form of S10 on the other team. So the Ruel here is a very good insurance policy against that.
Does end up getting so the Vivian makes it through. Arby is the one that gets banned. Interesting. All right, here we go into the game. Let's see how this all plays out.
Oh, that's a fast Vivian.
Which I guess I would say I'm surprised by, but I feel like it seems like that's the way everybody seems to build them these days. It's just very, very, very fast. Does she have a high base? I'm assuming she must, right?
She has a decent enough.
Yeah, you just want to make sure you get the immunity and attack up on everybody.
Right.
Oh, that is a violin.
So did that violin get rid of attack buff on like at least 2? Was it 3?
It left the attack buff on Vivian,
2.
which is... Yep.
On Vivian,
but then it
and
got
on
rid of the
Crow.
immunity on Vivian, which is huge here because now the Vivian is vulnerable to being stunned.
Some emotes flying out.
Yep.
That's very true. So that's super huge, as well as when you're getting these rebuttals from the SSB's attack buff got pulled as well. So a lot of incoming damage got like they knew it. They can see it. You can tell by the emotes. They know exactly how disappointing that was on the opposite side.
It does present a huge problem here because now we see that both of the DPS on the side of Slap does not have immunity up going into this Dizzy turn. So this Dizzy is, has the option to go ahead and rip the S3 here. And interesting heads-up play just on the previous turn, right, from Minty. Charles did not opt to go for the S3, went ahead and stripped the SSB to set up this potential right here. So I kind of like that. Now, yeah, and then this in return forces out the Ruel to, go ahead and cleanse something. And she opts to cleanse the SSB here.
Yep. Looks like we're going to keep the Vivian just stunned for now. Probably because I'm assuming at this point the Vivian is mostly there with the speed just to give you the immunity and the attack buff. And we're just not as worried about just getting her back in the play right off the bat. Is that kind of your thoughts on that?
Could be. That's pretty telling, right? If he didn't choose to... Or he just values SSB much more late game.
Right.
I do think that the Vivian S2 needs to be respected here because the S2 is actually a lot of AoE damage if the Vivian is tuned correctly. But we're probably not going to get to see the option here. And it's getting kind of dangerous because your S10 is falling very low, right? Between the Vivian didn't really get to do anything, but just one SSB here, chucking out
and that's
AoEs has gotten rid of the S10.
That's huge. That's so huge, especially still having up a Rezer on the other side and all of them being so unbelievably healthy. Enough so that you're seeing Ruel not even opt into using healing things right now, just S1ing.
I do think that the moment the Vivian rips her S2, the enemy team is going to die, and we're not even sure that if that's even needed here because
I don't think it is at all.
The
He's in a great
SSB
spot.
just chucked out so much damage.
Minty is pretty against the ropes at this point. I would guess that this one is mostly over because I don't think I've ever seen a Dizzy that can do 15k damage in a hit. So this is going to be really rough to try and get through the rest of the tankiness of this team. Especially now with the defense break, this is looking pretty over. There is the concede right there from Minty, and Slap taking the win for a 2-0 right there. We're gonna hand this back to the analyst to break down.
Very GG's.
That was crazy. Yeah, GG boys, GG.
All right, wow, that I gotta say a little bit exciting there, especially game 2. But we'll have game 2. We'll talk a little bit more game 2 in a bit here. But game 1, we saw ML Haste. The very first time we saw the ML Haste debut. A little bit similar to, the typical YDCB videos. We see, the character debut, does what it's good at, but ends up dying, losing you the game. But game 1, Pantry, let's have you talk about the missed drafts and the misplays there.
All right, so the drafts were quite interesting. We saw ML Haste actually getting debut versus RB. In this case, he actually didn't look too bad, but minutes later, the shield didn't exactly do anything. The FCC skill nullifier actually did the work instead. So I'm not exactly sure what the ML Haste actually did there. Minty's draft was quite interesting. He drafted very aggressive. He drafted like a lot of DPS, a lot of damage dealers. There was like quite a bit of mitigations on both sides, but his ML Haste didn't get a chance to do anything. Slap My Face actually has more utility on his side, but it's like he actually brought out his Dizzy, threatening the ban on her. Otherwise, Minty would have been gutted if she was actually still in play. So this entire game went out pretty smoothly. Slap My Face actually had his DN take the first turn, allowing him to buff first. But even though he buffed first, Minty's turn order was actually really, really good. His FCC, his Kron, and his ML Haste was able to take the turn, and Kron was able to execute the RB. However, that wasn't exactly enough in this kind of situation. Eventually, the fight didn't go too well. The Alencia and everything else took over, and Minty not having any kind of utility, no healers, no soul weavers, no sustain whatsoever, was really bad. Not only that, he also burned his ML Haste S3 a little bit too early, making him lose out on the heals. Also losing out on a 10% damage reduction coming from the ML Haste, I believe. That was actually quite crucial. Even though the S inhibitor didn't kill the Kron, it didn't proc his S2. Minty not being able to recover, not being able to heal the Kayron, and his team actually shut him down instead.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things is on Minty there. I feel like the ML Haste and the Fallen Cecilia, I felt like at the same time it was possibly a bit of a redundant thing there because, I mean, the skill nullifier already blocked Arbiter Vildred's damage there, but then so the ML Haste immunity and barrier actually didn't do that much and ended up just most of it expiring for a lot of the units there. So game 2, let's have Once in Love talk about that, and not to mention a few interesting things artifacts wise on Minty's side.
Yeah, so in game 2, we saw another pretty aggressive draft on both sides. Didn't quite like how aggressive Minty was playing. I feel like he really wanted to go for it. If he had hit everything, it would have been just right. But it was kind of this weird mix of like a really aggressive draft and then also picking like a utility mage. So like the Dizzy on counter set with Yelas is nice. It's a great pick into the Crow with the Vivian there. But you know, not expecting to see the double violin, seeing the Spec T with the violin strip the attack buff off of the or the greater attack buff off of the Vivian. Overall, I think the idea was really, really good. It just didn't quite work out. There wasn't enough damage to actually deal with the SSB at the end of it. Something worth mention, if he didn't strip the greater attack buff off the Vivian, Dignus Orb gives you 15% bonus damage on your next hit, so greater attack buff plus the Dignus Orb actually would have been a huge proc, but did manage to get the stun on that, so there wasn't too much that Minty could have done there to fight it. It's tough as well, like if you looked at some of the like timers when they were checking, I feel like a couple of units aren't like fully skilled, you know, missing out a little bit of damage possibly, but overall, not bad. I must say though that Jay's draft was really, really, really toxic. He picked Ruel, Crow, SSB, A Vildred, and then because he didn't have DN, he picked Vivian instead. So it's pretty solid. That's very, very tough to beat. So I do commend you on trying your best on it.
Yeah, I'll definitely say Jay's team was definitely one of the more typical teams we'll see a lot. And Minty being over aggressive, not picking into the Knights, not picking into a safer team, just pretty much going full damage except for the single DN there. Even though he had a good idea with the Valens, was a little bit difficult considering how tanky that Seaside Bologna was there. All right, well, pre-bans are starting for the next game, and Ark, let's have you take it away for us again.